K98 Talk is expanding its K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98talk.com.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks, it is Saturday morning, which means it is time for Finding Common Ground. Bryce Robbins, my usual co-host, is away dealing with some college preparation type stuffs, and Dave is on vacation. So while the liberals are away, the conservatives will play. I have Steve Long, host of Liberty Unfiltered, as well as a music podcast, Off the Record Oklahoma. I think that's what you're calling it nowadays. Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, he's joining me today. He's going to take the second chair. Can't really call it the left chair today because he's not left. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, folks, you're stuck with me because Bryce decided to leave.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call it stuck. I like to occasionally get a conservative over here. I mean, and honestly, you're libertarian, capital L, like giant font, capital L, bold and italic. I'm libertarian with little l, so I'm sure there'll be some things we still don't completely agree on. So it's kind of the point of the show.
I would self-conservative. I'm more extreme libertarian.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm kind of hanging out with some folks that are a little bit more like me than I've been able to find before, like Jason DeWilkins. He calls himself libertarian with a small L. I kind of like that because I have a lot of libertarian leanings, but there are still things that I'm kind of conservative on. So that's why I was like, well, I'm libertarian small L. You're like libertarian capital L, giant font, bold and italics, because it just kind of stands out everywhere. Because you're just like, yeah, I'm libertarian, so what?
Yeah, I've been referred to once as, oh man, what was the word? It was a really funny word. Horrendously libertarian.
Horrendously libertarian.
Horrendously libertarian.
Nice. So,
I'm so libertarian. Some libertarians don't even like me.
That's a bit of a statement because, you know, when you're so libertarian, then even the folks that call themselves libertarian are kind of looking at you like you're like they're like, what the hell? You know,
too libertarian for me, man.
I don't know. Is there any such thing as too libertarian? I mean, honestly,
I don't know. I guess there might be.
I guess that would be strictly open to interpretation.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of there's another radio show that's on, I won't mention the station since I don't know if we want to promote another station or not, but
I do it all the time. Go ahead.
Okay. It's on Vigilant Liberty Radio. And it's a show called Edge of Anarchy.
Yeah, I actually have listened to that one a time or two, and yeah, it's fine to promote VLR because we run some of their shows over here. And actually, when we get a new concept off the ground, I was going to contact Taylor and see if they wanted to run it because we have, thanks to JD and Stacy, we have an idea that I hadn't that I had thought of before, but I didn't really think of a way to tie my brand in with it. We're going to, since I'm not doing the America Off the Rails solo show anymore on Saturdays, we're going to start a program called America Off the Rails, the Roundhouse Edition. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a roundhouse is.
No.
It's a train thing. Back when they were like steam and coal operated, there was a big house they would go into to get reloaded and turn back around so they could go back out on the tracks again. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to do a panel show. We're going to have usually myself as the moderator, meaning I won't really say too much. Just kind of keep the conversations going between all the parties. Then we're going to have at least 2 other K98 hosts, preferably occasionally one of them being liberal if possible. And then we're going to have another host from an outside network that we're already in talks with several who want to kind of rotate through. And then we also have a 5th spot that will be open for a digital pundit, somebody like a major label blogger or somebody, to sit in for the whole show for the hour and basically just do a panel show where everybody kind of goes back and forth and talks about things.
Yeah, jump on that one of these days.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like I said, at this point, we'll definitely be rotating through people that want to do it anyway. So that's the one that I'm going to start trying to push out pretty much everywhere, because the biggest thing I'm running into is, like, for my show, everybody wants to run it, but I'm on 5 days a week, and they're like, I can't find anywhere to put you 5 days consecutively, so I'd love to run your show, but I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. We have another project starting soon anyway, so I'll send you that one when we're ready.
That's interesting. I don't know if you people listening are aware of this, but you're actually listening to the show that started it all right now.
Scary thought, isn't it?
It's like the first show that started the whole network.
Yep, this was it. This is what started it all. And then honestly, what started the rest of it was, and God love Dave, but because we got to the point where we were doing this show like 2 days a week. So after two days of listening to Dave back when he was more politically motivated, I had to have a day to vent. So that's where America Off the Rails came from, because I was like, I can't keep doing this all the time and not be able to give my full honest opinion, because I always feel like I kind of have to hold back a little bit when I've got...
this show used to be on Fridays.
This show actually used to be on Tuesdays. No, this show used to be on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Well, it used to be on Fridays because you used to do Red Shirt Friday.
Well, that was actually another show. When we first started it, we did it on, I think our first couple of shows were actually on Saturdays. And then because of the job that we had, our schedules changed, so we moved everything to Tuesdays. And then we decided...
on Fridays, because I used to listen to it at work.
Yeah, there was a show that eventually did come on Fridays too, but it was me and Dave still, but it was actually just called Red Shirt Friday. So at one point we were actually doing 3 shows a week. And then everything else kind of grew out of that. Because there was Finding Common Ground that we usually did on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it took me forever to talk him into doing the Thursday show, because I was like, come on, man, one day a week's not enough. And he was like, for the first several months, he's like, no, man, no. Then he's like, I kind of think maybe we could do another show. And then like a month later, I was like, we should do a show on Fridays too. And he's like, you're insane. And then a month and a half later, we were doing the show on Fridays. So
here we are.
That was back when we were still on Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah.
The place where it seems like most everybody starts.
Yeah, that's where I started mine too.
But yeah, so lots going on today. For those of you who don't know, June 6th is the anniversary of D-Day, 1944, I believe. So now, 71 years later, we have all of that to look back onto. I do encourage folks that might not have thought about it yet. You might want to take a second and just kind of remember those who fought, bled, and died. Otherwise, we would probably either be speaking Japanese or German by now. But yeah, so anyway, one of the major overlying themes of today's show is 71 years later, have we really learned anything from 2 world wars? My short answer is no. Because nothing has changed, and we'll get into that a little bit later too. But before we get too far into everything, We have changed the format a little bit, so we'll be taking a break here in about 5 minutes. It's been a while since you've been on, but we've actually gone to a 2-break format, so we will be taking a short break here in a second. But before we do that, why don't you go ahead and bring everybody up to speed on the couple of political things you still have going on and give them an idea of where to find you when you're not doing the political thing, because you are pretty active over on our sister station right now, too.
Well, okay, so the show that I'm doing right now, the political show that I do, but not now, I'm kind of on hiatus for that. I'm taking a little vacation from that. Is it's called Liberty Unfiltered. It was on Monday nights. When I come back, I'm not sure when it'll be. We'll figure that out when the time comes.
So far, your slot's still open.
What I'm doing in its place is also on Monday nights at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. I do a music show called Off the Record, and it is still just called Off the Record. It's just the links are specific to Oklahoma. Like the website itself is offtherecordoklahoma.us. The Facebook page is Off the Record Oklahoma. And basically what it is I play the music of the punk, rock, hardcore, and metal variety from bands exclusively based in Oklahoma. So basically it's a way to promote the Oklahoma music scene of those genres, and it's not I do want to let people know it's not exclusive to the Oklahoma City area, because I had a few people asking me about that, and it's like, oh, no, anywhere from Oklahoma. So that's kind of why I had to move over to because it used to be Off the Record OKC, and then it was like, well, okay, that doesn't really mean what I wanted it to be. So anyway, so that's going really well. I'm getting a lot of feedback from that, and starting to really get more music sent my way. People that want to hear, they want to hear themselves on these shows, and a lot of people are helping me promote it. So it's really starting to become a big deal, I guess. Other than that, with the Libertarian Party, as you might know or not know, I don't know if you've been paying attention to it, but the governor signed a new ballot access law that lowers the required number of signatures to form a new political party. Previously, the number of signatures was equal to 5% of the votes that were cast in the last general election. The new law, which actually goes into effect on November 1st, is dropping that requirement down to 3%. Now, before I continue with what I'm getting in here, just kind of a sidebar. Most of the people that are quote unquote in charge of the Libertarian Party here in Oklahoma are not really happy with that 3%, because it doesn't really, it wasn't enough of a change that we would have liked. In fact, when the law was first introduced in the state house, it dropped the number down to 1%, which we were happy with. That bill passed unanimously in the House, which is unprecedented. I don't remember the last time I've seen a bill of this nature passed unanimously. So it passed at 1%, went to the Senate, went into conference, or not conference, but went into committee, and they amended it to the 3%, and it passed in the Senate. And so when it went back to the House, they had the option to either amend it again or just send it to conference committee and let it die. But they went ahead and passed it. And then it went to the governor. So basically what this means right now is that the number of signatures that any party, it's not just the Libertarian Party, there's other parties, the Green Party I know is going to be trying as well. The number of signatures they're going to need in order that are going to need to collect in order to get on the ballot in 2016 be just under 25,000. Now, the Oklahoma Libertarian months ago had already filed its intent to form a new political party because they got to do this every year. And so that petition process has already begun. So that is kind of what we're gearing up with now. At this point, it's only we're asking for volunteers to collect signatures. And we've been in talks with the National Libertarian Party about them donating some money to that cause in order to hire petition or signature gatherers, rather. They've done it in the past, and I have to say that a lot of time and money and resources have been, I don't want to say wasted, but it kind of feels that way because they just, it's personally, I just think the money's been wasted. But we're in talks to get them to donate some money to hire petition gatherers. But at this point, we're just taking volunteers, and we actually are getting, because I sent an email out to the membership earlier this week to see, how many signatures they'd be willing to collect, trying to get people to commit to running for office in 2016, because if we get on the ballot and nobody runs, then it's kind of pointless. And then also asking if they'd contribute money to either hire signature gatherers or any other type of monies that might be needed for this process. In any case, if you're listening and you are interested in collecting signatures and getting something other than a Republican or Democrat on the ballot in 2016, there's a website. You can go to the Oklahoma Libertarian Party's website. It is Oklahoma. What the heck is it? It's oklahoma.org/party-petitioning.html. Or you can just go to the Oklahoma Libertarian Facebook page, and there's a link there as well. It's just Oklahoma LP. Other than that, I haven't really been up to much of anything other than work.
That dreaded W word. Always rears its head somewhere. All right, so actually, I may talk to you about an idea that I just kind of got after the show's over. Because this show and a couple other ones, predominantly the traffic comes from Oklahoma, so maybe you guys should put together a bit of a spot about wanting volunteers and what it is that you're trying to do, and we can start running it on this show and possibly one other one.
Oh yeah, I can do something like that.
All right, but anyway, folks, we are a few minutes past where we normally take our first break of the show, so we're going to go ahead and take a really quick break. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes. This is Finding Common Ground. I'm Rick Robinson, joined today by special co-host Mr. Steve Long, host of Liberty Unfiltered, as well as, I always forget the name of the other show.
Off the Record.
Off the Record, there we go. All right, we'll be right back, folks.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members or their families, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to keep them secure for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost for life, so that they might stand at ease. Join us at findwwp.org.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
Alright folks, we're back, we're live. This is Finding Common Ground. I'm Rick Robinson, again joined today by special co-host Mr. Steve Long. And now that we've kind of got the preliminaries out of the way, we've let everybody know what it is that you've been up to during your break from talk radio. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the show, which is basically kind of a run-through theme that I kind of came up with once I realized. Steve, are you still there, or did I lose you?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. My entire internet went out for a second. It's a good thing I have a technician coming by today, because I don't know what the heck is going on. Ever since those storms, everything goes crazy. Anyway, I do believe at this point we are back live, so I'll wind up cutting that little snafu portion out. But back to what I was saying before everything went crazy. Kind of the recurring theme for today is going to be whether or not we've learned anything since D-Day, which happened 71 years ago. And again, my short answer is no, but let's hear a little bit about D-Day while I try to see if I can track down the problem.
D-Day was the largest seaborne invasion in world history and was a pivotal moment in World War II. On the morning of June 6, 1944, nearly 160,000 Allied soldiers crossed the English Channel and stormed 5 beaches along a 50-mile stretch of Normandy, France. The United States led the assault to try to retake the western coast of Europe from the Germans, who had conquered and been occupying it for 4 years. In the months and weeks leading up to the invasion, the Allies used a variety of means to deceive the Germans, who knew an attack was coming but didn't know where it would focus. After postponing the invasion by a day because of bad weather, the Supreme Commander of the Allied forces, American General Dwight D. Eisenhower, gave the go-ahead for the operation, codenamed Neptune. Shortly after midnight, 24,000 British, US, and Canadian airborne troops parachuted into France. Around the same time, minesweepers began clearing channels for the invasion fleet, which was comprised of almost 7,000 boats of all types, although around 4,100 of these were landing crafts carrying infantrymen. The Germans, by contrast, had just over 100 total ships in the area at the time and were heavily outnumbered. The same was true for the German Air Force, which could muster only 815 aircraft over Normandy in comparison to the Allies' 9,500. Naval bombardment of the beaches commenced at 5:45 a.m. while it was still dark. Allied infantry and armored divisions began landing on the coast of France, starting at 06:30. The men landed under heavy fire from gun encampments overlooking the beaches. The shore was mined and covered with wooden stakes, metal tripods, and barbed wire obstacles, making the work of the beach clearing teams difficult and dangerous. Casualties were heaviest at Omaha with its high cliffs. At Gold, Juneau, and Sword, several towns were cleared in house-to-house fighting. The Allies did not achieve all of their goals on D-Day. Only Juneau and Gold Beach were linked in the first 24 hours, and all 5 bridgeheads were not connected until nearly a week had passed. However, the operation was successful, as the Allies gained a precious foothold that gradually expanded as they drove into Germany from the west over the coming months. German casualties on D-Day were around 1,000 men. Allied casualties were at least 12,000, with 4,414 confirmed dead. With Russia bearing down from the east, the European side of World War II ended with the surrender of Germany less than a year after the Normandy operation. Once Japan surrendered in September 1945, the deadliest conflict in human history was over. It had taken the lives of anywhere from 50 to 85 million people. The outcome of the war has been critical in shaping the geopolitical landscape of the last 70 years. The victorious great powers, the United States, China, the United Kingdom, France, and what is now the Russian Federation, became the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. Thanks for watching this historic episode of The Daily Conversation. I'm Bryce Plank.
Alright, so just a little bit of an overview of what happened on this day about 71 years ago. And the disturbing point of fact is, really, we've learned nothing. Actually, as of now, I think things might be pretty close to getting to the point where, really, if anybody really stopped and looked, we're basically in a global conflict right now. Just nobody wants to call it that. So it's kind of disturbing to me to realize that 71 years ago, we lost all of those people trying to keep the world free, and now at this point, we are pretty much right back where we started, and most of it is because we have made poor decisions for the last 71 years when it comes to how we deal with the rest of the world, and it seems like that decision-making process is getting worse, not better. Any thoughts?
Well, the people running the show definitely don't seem to be learning from history, for sure. So you would think that after 200 plus years of conflict and in this country, that they would realize that it doesn't really achieve what they think it achieves. What it does achieve is that it achieves loss of life and loss of credibility. Ever since that war, we have gone down this track of becoming the world's policeman. A little bit more so than after that war, but even it's almost like it's ramped up since that war. So I really think that the end result of that war put us on a path that we can't really. It's gotten to the point now we can't really escape from it anymore.
You're completely right, because there really isn't any way for us to escape from it anymore, because at this point, and I've said this before, even with Bryce, who, oddly enough, for a liberal, completely disagrees with the fact that we should not be the world police, and I'm like, look, if I had my way, if there was a way that I could, jack the DeLorean from Back to the Future and get it up to 80 mile an hour, I would go back to whoever had the idea that we needed to become the global police force and just punch them right square in the face. Because it shouldn't have been anything that ever got started. The problem is, now that it has been started, at this point, now that we see that we are actually, whether it's by decision or by ineptitude from the current administration, we are stepping back from our role for a global police force. And sadly, now that role was filled, nature, by definition and default, abhors a vacuum. So there are plenty of not really very good people stepping in to start trying to fulfill the roles that we've had for the past 71 plus years, which is as the global police force. So my problem with all of it is, I wish there was a way we could go back and make sure that never got started, but now that it has been started and we are trying to pull back from it, again, like even with Israel, there was a story that broke not too long ago that because of the recent tension between U.S. and Israel, China was making weekly visits to Israeli embassies. and talking about how, the U.S. isn't your real true friend anymore. You do much better if you started allying with us, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. This type of stuff is going on everywhere, but nobody's talking about it because nobody cares, because we're too busy worried about whether or not Bruce Jenner had a sex change or what's going on with the Duggars. And I have to admit, even I myself have talked about that on the last couple of shows, but for different reasons. It's to point out the fact that we are way too caught up in other people's business all over the place, and we need to focus on a lot more of what's going on that matters, because if we don't, we're going to miss stories like one that I sent to you last night that I got from a friend who's like, hey, for the last couple of days you've been talking about this stuff a lot, and I don't know if you've seen this, which goes back to another reason I feel like we really haven't learned much of anything in the last 71 years, because it seems like we're on the verge of another Cold War with Russia, if we're not in one already.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, buddy. I can see us going that route. But we really need to get, I don't know, I think we really need to press on the leaders to ratchet back the warfare state that we've become.
Oh, no, I completely agree with that. And actually, that brings up a good point, because I've been taking flack for the last couple of weeks because I agree with a statement that Rand Paul made recently, where he said basically the reason ISIS exists is through fault of people in his own party. And he has come under so much fire for that. But how can you deny it? I mean, seriously, honestly, how can you deny that most of the reason why ISIS is as powerful as it is because of hawks on both sides of the aisle? Granted, there are more hawks in the Republican Party than there are the Democratic Party, so ultimately it still falls back on the party that I somewhat have leanings towards most of the time. But the fact that they're calling him names and attacking him openly and blatantly now because he was bold enough to say what I believe is a true statement is completely crazy. Because everybody knows that half the reason they're as powerful as we are is because we have this propensity to basically send weapons to anybody that can afford them, and who cares if they actually get there.
Right, and you're right that it's on both sides of the aisle. Which, you can't blame just one, because to get in this position that we're in now, it took bipartisan effort. So as much as folks would like to blame the Republicans for the state we're in, it takes both parties to screw things up. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed lately, but even though the Republicans have a majority, they are not unanimously controlling either house. So, I mean, you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I've noticed.
It's tango.
I mean, and that's kind of the whole thing is, we sent all these people to D.C. because we expected them to do things differently, and what we've basically run into is they're basically doing the same thing as the folks that we got rid of because we were sold a bill of goods. And this has kind of been my thing all along, and I'll give you my take on it and give you a chance to say something. At this point, I kind of feel like no matter which party you're voting for, of course excluding the Libertarian Party because I never really had much of an opportunity to vote for them, you it's kind of feeling like whether you're pulling the lever for blue or pulling the lever for red, it's nothing but a brand war. It's kind of like when you buy the Coke and Pepsi. No matter which one you pick, you're still getting a soda. It's the same thing. They're just maybe slightly different.
Well, the way you kind of put that, if you're pulling for left or pulling for right, you might as well be pulling on something else because you're going to get the same result.
Ew. It's too early for that, man. Ew. That was good, though. All right, so at this point, because we took the other break a little later, I pushed the next one back, but it is about that time again, so we will be right back with you here in just a couple minutes. Do have to take another really quick break, and then we'll continue on with the remainder of the show.
Radio as you know it.
Okay, so let's talk about the story, which I think is hilarious. I'm just going to refer to it as the poop plane because, like, what else are you going to call it? But there was this plane, okay? It took off. It's the British Airways. They were going to Dubai. I have a hard time pronouncing that one.
It was British
anyway,
Airways. It wasn't jet.
Airways.
It wasn't jet poo.
It wasn't.
Couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
I like it. This story. If we've ever had a story that is up our alley, it's this one. It's bathroom humor up from front to back of the airplane. Apparently, they had to turn around to go back to Heathrow because they said the smelly poo in the toilet became unbearable for passengers, and it was so bad. They decided it's so bad that they had to turn around and go back rather than continue their flight. They decided that there wasn't enough Febreze, there wasn't enough anything to handle this.
Maybe they should see a doctor. Is there a GoFundMe for this guy?
It must be a woman, because a woman's going to be mortified and embarrassed. If this is a guy, you know that he's like out there on Twitter and everything else saying, dude, I took down an airplane with how bad that I laid it down.
There was an old woman who flew on jet poo. She ate so many burritos she didn't know what to do.
So we turned the plane around because they made a big stink. We've just made it into a haiku at the end, but there had to be something.
Real Serious Nonsense, Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, now on K98 Talk.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com. K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
All right, folks, before we get back to the show, I do want to give a shout-out to a show that just started with us a few weeks ago. We don't have a promo for this particular one yet, but JD and Stacy, Bloody Marys and Broadsheets, airs every Sunday morning at 11 Eastern. And before them, you can check out the God's Pure Word of Faith show with host Richard Harden that airs every Sunday from 6 to 8. And then, of course, now Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 in the morning. So make sure you check those out as well. I've been not doing a really good job of getting those mentions in there, and I know Richard has a promo somewhere. I'll have to find that one. But anyway, now we'll be headed back to the show here in just another second. All right, folks, we're back. We're into the last part of the show already. We're down to like 20 minutes. You know, sometimes the hours seem like they go by really, really fast. I kind of miss the 2-hour format sometimes, and then I try to do a bunch of them, and I'm just like, oh no, going back to an hour.
Yeah, when I do my music show, it's like, crap, I'm already...
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, I guess, if you really like what you're doing, it's like you look up and it's over, because, I mean, we're down to like 20 minutes, which is crazy, but it's just one of those things where it's like, before you know what happens, the show's already almost over. But so anyway, kind of what we were hinting at a little bit before we took the break was this new emerging Cold War with Russia. And there's a pretty disturbing article that I linked to you last night that kind of gave some allusions to some of that stuff that's been going on that I'm not sure if everybody's aware of, because they all seem like they're focusing more on the stuff that's going on with reality TV and all the things that kind of spin off from the craziness that is reality TV. This is actually from Newsweek, so that's part of what scared me when I saw this. Was I was like, this isn't like Red Flag or something. This is actually Newsweek. So, basically, there's been a few things that have been going on that not really anybody's talking about. As in this example, Moscow recently announced it will procure 50 new, as soon as I get this pop-up out of the way, nuclear-capable bombers, the Tupolev Tu-160 or Blackjacks, which are the world's largest combat aircraft. This seemingly anodyne announcement points to a critically important element of Russian strategy that we overlook at our and our allies' peril. This procurement is the latest in a continuing series of unilateral Russian violations of arms control agreements and treaties with the United States, Ukraine. This is with the United States and the Ukraine. The systematic dismantling of arms control agreements through unilateral violations has become a consistent theme of Russian policy. Russia's new bombers violate the Presidential Nuclear Initiatives, otherwise known as PNIs, concluded by then Russian President Boris Yeltsin and the U.S. President George H.W. Bush in the 1990s that significantly reduced nuclear rivalry between Moscow and Washington. However, Russia violated these admittedly non-binding political agreements by outfitting its submarines with tactical nuclear weapons in 2004. This procurement, along with upgrading the radar and navigation equipment of Russia's Tu-60s or Tu-160s, is another nail in the coffin of the PNIs. But this is not the only agreement that the Russians have violated. Moscow walked out on the Conventional Forces in Europe Treaty in 2007. Since then, Russia has instigated 2 wars in Europe, has conducted escalating conventional and nuclear probes, which are overflights by conventional and nuclear-capable aircraft. It has deployed nuclear and conventional-based submarines in Swedish waters and in English Channel, deployed nuclear weapons in Kaliningrad, and threatened to do so in Crimea. The Kremlin has made a number of nuclear threats against the Baltic states, Finland, Great Britain, Norway, Poland, and Sweden, all while undertaking a long-term, massive conventional and nuclear buildup that shows no sign of stopping. At the same time, Moscow unilaterally broke the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty by testing the Yars intercontinental ballistic missile, the multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicle version of the SS-27 Topol M Variant 2, and by testing the R-500 Iskander K cruise missile within the treaty's prohibited distances. And then it goes on to list many other numerous violations. There's 2 reasons I bring this up. One is because, it doesn't seem like anybody's really talking about it. Much more likely do they even seem to care. But with as long as Russia supposedly, and those were air quotes in case you can't see them because we're not on camera, is one of our allies, does anybody really think that we can actually get a country like Iran to abide by a treaty when we can't even seem to get Russia to do so? Anybody? Euler? Just asking. I don't understand this anymore. I mean, and the funny thing is that was one of the things that I think honestly became the turning point for the Obama administration in the 2012 run-up, was when Romney mentioned something about Russia still being a major geopolitical foe, and Obama got the line off where, the 1980s called and they want their foreign policy back. Well, I'd like to make a call to the 1980s and request they send their foreign policy here, because it kind of seems like we might need to go back to a Cold War stance with this particular, what is supposed to still be on paper an ally. I'm a little concerned. Just saying.
Well, this is the sort of thing that happens when you align yourself militarily, if you want to put it that way, because if I remember correctly, that is one of the things that specifically one, if not more, of the founding fathers warned us against. So, we can't even learn from the people that started the country.
Well, that's because most people alive today think they were a bunch of idiots who didn't know what they were doing.
Have you ever read? It's not really a book; it's more like an essay. It's on the internet pretty abundantly. It's called "War is a Racket."
I haven't read it, but I have heard of it. I actually may read it now because I kind of forgot it was out there until you said something.
It was written in. It was actually written in 1935, so this is pre-World War II. And it was written by a Marine Corps general, 2-star general, and he actually this guy actually won the Medal of Honor twice. His name is Smedley Butler, and the whole idea is how war is basically it's about war profiteering. It's about how warfare continues and will continue because it's in the business side of interactions. Business interests are benefiting from it is what I'm getting at. So, he talks mostly about World War I because that's where his experience was from. And he talks about how the corporations that were running the war machine, the companies that were building the bombs and the bullets and the tanks and the guns were subsidized by the public, of course, and generated quite a profit margin from these from the sale of this equipment that they were making. So essentially, they were profiting from human suffering, from widespread death. So the rest of the book basically talks about how how war is a racket, who's making the profits, who pays the bills, it talks about how basically we as an American people are subsidizing war and essentially death. And in the book, he also went over some ideas on how to reverse that, but obviously nobody listened then because here we are. What was that, 1935? So exactly 80 years later, haven't learned a thing.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It seems like one of the things that everybody read in history. There was, I can't think of who said it, but it's one of those things that everybody throws around because they think it makes them sound important. Those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. Apparently, we have a lot of folks that don't understand history because it seems like it's just a repeating cycle over and over and over and over, and nothing changes. Fun times.
Well, another book that would be well within people's benefit to read is, and again, I don't know if you've read it or not, but it's called The Law, old book by Frederick Bastiat.
No, again, not one I'm that familiar with, to be honest.
It's a short book. In fact, they've made some company went out and made a kids version of it. Which I thought was pretty interesting, and of course I bought it. But this guy, it was written in the 1800s by, like I said, Frederick Bastiat, and he was a French. He wasn't a politician. I think he was an economist. Essentially the book had to do with I'm gonna lose my train of thought here. Basically about the proper role of government. And it's very easy read. But it talks about, what the government should be doing, and mostly it talks about what the government shouldn't be doing. Yeah, so it's a pretty good read. But what I'm getting at with describing these books is that the only way that we're going to be able to reverse the way things are going is to get, because you try to get the leaders to change their mind. That's just I don't want to say a wasted effort, but it's like we were talking about pulling the lever for Republican or Democrat. You're basically pulling something else. But it's almost like a waste of time trying to get them to change their minds. So what you have to do is you've got to educate the population, and educate them in ways other than here, watch this TV show. Because that's definitely, the news is only going to give you so much bad information until you start to believe it. So you got to point them in the right direction of what you got to educate them properly, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Which, Lord knows, there's not enough of that. Actually, that brings up something that I saw that was kind of funny on Facebook yesterday. There was there's a meme that's going around, right? I guess it's technically a meme now, because somebody took a screenshot of something, or a picture of something that they saw on their TV screen, and then they superimposed the whole Captain Picard with his head down, like he's like, oh my god. And on the screen it says, "Is school too easy for children?" Except instead of TOO, it said TWO. and this was on a local TV station. So let that sink in for a second. The person that made that typo, first of all, after the typo was made, I'm sure it was reviewed by at least one or two other people before it actually made it to the air. All of these people are being paid to make sure that there are no mistakes, and yet they just broadcast a very major mistake. Which kind of brought up my point to it, is maybe school is apparently too easy if spelling is still such a major issue that you can't tell the difference between TWO, TO, and TOO. Just saying. But yeah, so it goes back to the education that we have going on right now, which I think you and I do agree on one thing. I don't think the federal government should be nearly as involved in education as it is, because I think the states were intended to be their own separate entities. I also believe that each state was intended to be basically a laboratory to give the folks that actually resided within that state input as to how things were done. And I think if we could get the federal government out of education, we would not have this cookie-cutter approach to education, because everybody knows the cookie-cutter approaches are not going to work everywhere. I understand minimum standards to make sure that everybody can tie their shoes, everybody knows what 2 + 2 is, but after that, the federal government needs to get out of the way and let states improvise and find ways to make sure that their populace is the best educated that they possibly can be, because what works for education in California isn't necessarily going to work for education in Oklahoma. Are you laughing at me?
No, you must have missed what I said.
Yes, I did, actually.
I said, is our children learning?
Oh, nice.
Fun quote by a former president.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I read a really funny quote on Twitter just a little while ago. And the quote is, "A man without a government is like a fish without a bicycle." Now let that one sink in for a while.
So basically what you're saying is a man without a government is basically a man without something he didn't really need in the first place.
Exactly. Love that quote.
All right, well, that's actually going to bring us to the end of the show, so don't forget to tune in tomorrow for...
Let's get this guy off the air.
No, it's just we actually are about out of time. There's going to be a replay for Bryce Robbins, the Opinion Nation show, starting here in just a couple seconds as soon as we shut this one down. We'll have Richard Harden on first thing tomorrow morning, and actually I forgot we have a show that is on this afternoon. We have the Ann and Frank show that just started running with us last week. That will be on here live at 3 p.m., provided I still have internet access. Otherwise, it will just be picked up as soon as I'm able to get back on the air.
And you got a new show starting next Friday, don't you?
Well, I'm pretty sure we do. I'm actually supposed to meet with him over the phone probably tomorrow to discuss a few things. But as far as I know, we will be starting that one soon. But I don't really want to give anything on over the air quite yet, just in case. But it does look like they are heavily leaning this way. So anyway, so at this point, this will be the end of Finding Common Ground. Thanks for joining me again today, Steve. It's been a while since we've done anything like this. It was kind of cool. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you one more time before we shut down.
If you want to listen to my music show, you just go to the website offtherecordoklahoma.us, and that is .us, not .com. And that'll take you to where you can listen to any of the shows.
All right. Well, this has been Finding Common Ground. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We will be back with you this same time next week.
Maybe you should tell them your Twitter handle in case they want to follow you.
Oh, yeah, I was actually going to do that in a second. Before I realized we may not actually be back next week unless you're free to hang out again, because I forgot Bryce will be out of town again next Saturday, too.
So, I wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay, cool. So we'll pencil that in for now, and if nothing else, we'll put up a replay. Again, I'm Rick Robinson, host of America Off the Rails, host of Finding Common Ground, and our programming director here at K98 Talk. Also managing partner Spark Radio Network, and you can find me several places. You can either hit me up on Facebook at just search Rowdy Ricky Robinson, pull right up, send me a friend request, we'll talk, we'll hang out, it'll be fun. You can follow me on Twitter at _R_OKC. Comments, complaints, questions, concerns, show ideas, guest ideas, hit me up at rick at k98talk.org. That is going to do it for today, folks. We will be back with you next Saturday. Same time, same channel. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for tuning in with us.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. But perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground.